All right, everybody, welcome to the program. I give to you today the foremost authority on ayahuasca in the United States of America, Mr. Peter Gorman. Peter Gorman wrote the book Ayahuasca in My Blood back in 2011, and it was the first book I ever read on ayahuasca, and to this date, it is the best book I ever read on ayahuasca. And I've read pretty much all the ayahuasca books out there, and Peter Gorman is quite the storyteller. It's a very great book. I recommend you get it right away. You can go to pgorman.com, and you could see he just has another book released called Sapo in My Soul. Sapo is another type of plant medicine. You could get them either signed or not signed. They're a little bit more expensive if you get them signed. He also has programs that he does where he takes groups down to ayahuasca, down to Peru, where you can do ayahuasca in the Amazon jungle, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to be the longest podcast in the history of Tony Talks to this point, but it is one of my favorite episodes because this guy is a legend. He's a legend for what he does and what he was able to do to bring such great awareness about ayahuasca. He's been going down and not experimenting, just I guess drinking it, and working with the native people in the Amazon jungle and getting their knowledge and spreading his own knowledge, just on unbelievable stories. Don't forget Tony Talks 8 on both Twitter and Instagram, and Tony Talks 8 podcast at gmail.com, as well as TonyTalks8.com. You could go on the Tony Talks website. You find all the previous podcasts as well as this one. You could also go to my recommended reading list, and you will find Peter Gorman's Ayahuasca in My Blood on the recommended reading list. So it's quite an honor to have him, and that's all I'm going to say. He's got plenty of stories. Give it up for the legendary Peter Gorman. Here comes the intro.
But writing a book about your own experiences, it's difficult to figure out what's important to the person who's reading it. It's different if I'm doing an investigation of somebody in prison who shouldn't be in prison. I don't give a damn what you think is important. I'm going to tell you what's happening here. I know what's important. It's different writing this, And it was the first time I was really writing. I mean, I'd written a fiction book, 2, never published. Nobody, but I might publish some on Gorman Bench Press. And I called Gorman Bench Press because it was like I took the freaking weight and threw it off my chest, And so, but I thought Ayahuasca in My Blood, other people had begun writing books about ayahuasca. But, one of the famous ones was a woman who had been down there 2 weeks. One of the famous ones was a guy who had been there 10 days. He got a whole damn book out of 10 days. I'm like, 25 years. I don't think anybody's approaching it from this perspective, to see what and you know what? I might have been the lousiest student. I might still be the lousiest student that medicine's ever had. But I thought it was important to get that perspective out there, that after 25 years, you're not perfect. You're as human as you ever were. You keep screwing up your damn marriage until your wife leaves you. You keep figuring, oh my God, I messed up my kids again last night. What did I do? And just for instance, last night, I've got one of my older kids just built a small bar in our huge garage, 24 by 36 garage. And he rebuilds cars in there and boats in there, and but he built me a small bar in a corner, put a small fridge in. And he was there for 2 or 3 hours last night. And I was working here, and then I went outside to the front porch. I was sitting on the swing, I opened up a bottle of wine. I was having some wine. My kid was there, and I kept calling him, I mean, it's 50 yards away. He didn't respond. So I thought, well, he's probably really pissed off that I'm not visiting whatever he's doing there.
Hmm.
My kid is from Peru, and he's half Peruvian, and he loved, like, do it with company, never do it alone. It was like, I'm go paying attention, because he had just driven in without me noticing, and he hadn't said hello. And it's a big enough property that I didn't see him driving. And of course, I drove in, and he's sitting there with a friend. And I realized, oh, they're just having this very private conversation. But at the same time, the friend is a friend of mine. So I couldn't just say, hello, M, see you later, or it would look bad. So I ended up staying there, and then my kid had to leave with his friend. So even now, I totally fail at the most ridiculous little things that you don't think as a 69-year-old man you ought to fail at. And you took all this medicine, Gorman, and you spend all this time singing for world peace and healing, and you try to do good stuff, and you fail. You know, I just think how much more I would have failed if I didn't do the medicine. I'd have been a catastrophe. You know, I'd probably been a real catastrophe for this planet. So, so even 25 years, I thought it was important to let people know you ain't whole after 25 years. You're not, you're not anybody's guru. You're not anybody's super smart. You're not anybody's, oh, I have the answers. Maybe somebody else would. I don't. I had a guy call me today. Somebody made a movie called More Joy, Less Pain, sort of regarding me. And and somebody wrote me today saying, Peter, you discuss getting rid of toxins in your body using frog sweat medicine, Cambo, Sapo, and yet there you are smoking cigarettes. And all I could write was, I'm guilty. You're right. Yes. You know, I mean, that's my addiction. I don't do cocaine. I don't do heroin. I don't abuse women. I don't get drunk much anymore. I don't date. Actually, I probably don't date at all because I'm just not getting lucky. But I certainly wouldn't date anybody under 30, 35, okay? Because I'm old. And those younger than that's like kids. You know what I mean? So I don't do anything bad. But all the medicine in the world is only going to point you towards how to best behave. It's not going to solve the problem. It's not going to fix your issues. It's going to suggest if you did X, Y, Z, you might get to this point. I don't know. Don't mean to bore you.
No, I'm curious. Did you find the last thing you'll do is bore anybody? Did you find when you first started going, you started going down there 1984?
Uh-huh.
From your first experience drinking the ayahuasca, they compounded and they grew to more and more vivid or stronger experiences?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that would be the most unremarkable comment someone could make. They didn't just compound. But you wouldn't be wrong. It was
I'm a very unremarkable person, so
no. I don't mean it that way. I
no, it's
mean,
fine.
people don't have any idea, and I don't know how many times I've done it. Let's just say more than six. Okay, more than six, because I can only count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and after that, my cigarettes in my hand doesn't count.
Even though you every year you go and you drink it when you 25 years, so it's probably more than six. Safe
That's what
assumption.
I'm saying. I know it's more than six. Whether it's 800, whether it's 1200, whether it's 673, I don't know. Okay, but it's more than six. When my primary teacher, although I was the lousiest student he ever had, Julio Herrera, An elderly man who was a fisherman on a small river tributary of the Amazon, raising his 12 children, a mestizo. But it turned out when he died, I discovered that he actually, every month, he was getting $500 because he'd been shot twice in 2 different wars for Peru, which is how he ended up learning about ayahuasca. But before I knew that, he was just a fisherman, and I'd go down there, I'd bring him fish hooks, fish net, fish. And he always talked about 4 different magics. And I thought, I mean, it took me 20 years to get it because he was never trying to teach me until very close to the end of his life. He was always just, Pedrito, ya está bien, man, and he'd smoke me and he'd, put perfume on my head. But I didn't think he was my teacher. I never thought of him that. He was just my friend. And I happened to do ayahuasca with him. And when I'd show up at his place, he'd be like, I'd love to do ayahuasca tomorrow, but you see that roof section needs to be replaced. I got to go find some leaves. Of course, if you found those leaves and wove that together, then I might be free to make ayahuasca. So he always had me working around his place. I was young, he was 90, or 78, or 82, or 85, or 94. And but he talked about 4 magics. He talked about red magic, which is the magic of blood. It's the healing magic of all red blood anywhere in the universe. Talking about green magic, which to me is very important. It's the magic of the Verdancia, nature's magic. It's where the roots of the tree. Have you got a tree in your front yard?
I have an apartment.
Okay,
So
on the street,
they
is
do,
there a
yeah.
tree?
There's trees.
Is there a bush somewhere
There's
that you can see?
trees. There's plants.
Those plants have roots. Those roots feed from the water that comes from the sky, rain, and they feed from underground, reservoirs and etc. But green magic is a magic of connectedness, because what I pee today goes into my septic tank, or I don't care, some sewer system. Sooner or later, it makes it to the ocean. The sun picks it up, drops the sand as salt, but picks up, the water, and moves it to the Cayman Islands, where it feeds hotels, hotel wells. And then it moves on to North Africa, moves on to Europe, it moves on to Russia, it moves on to China. It's feeding the food that feeds their animals. My pee. We're talking about green magic. So we're talking about the connectedness of things, the magic of all of the water in the universe. And eventually, when the camels drink my pee, and then they pee or spit, that feeds the vegetables in my garden, which feed my children. Talk about interconnectedness.
Mm-hmm.
We need each other. White magic is the illuminating light of the universe. And black magic is the molten core of everything that holds everything together. Not negative stuff. No. Just it's the molten core. It's the gyroscope that keeps atoms and neurons from flying apart. It keeps universes from flying apart. It keeps the earth from flying apart. It's the center of us. So Julio always talked those. So when you ask if things build on each other, one night, probably, let's say 20 years ago now, maybe, yeah, about 20 years ago, a plant leaned over, and it had been a very difficult night. And my wife had a very difficult time, and I had to walk her through a field, and it was dangerous. It was night, and if we run into a bushmaster or something, but she was, like crazy, and I had two guests with me, and they were both going nuts. And Julio's just there, like, yeah, calming things down. I finally got back to the hut where we drank, and the plant leaned over and said, "You look tired. Would you like a drop or two of me?" And I was like, "Oh my God!" And normally I would have said no, but I was so frightened. I mean, I was so tired. I said, "Yeah, whatever." And she dropped 2 or 3 drops of her red juice, and I drank them. The whole world turned red. And it was red from blood. It was red of the healing red magic. And I would say for the next 3 years, 25, 40 times I drank ayahuasca, everything turned red. It was how to deal with healing. I'm not saying I learned it, but I was shown it. Okay. So do things build on each other with ayahuasca? I'm sorry, this is taking half an hour to answer your
No,
question.
this is amazing.
They don't just build. Every step was a step until I finished with red magic, or red magic finished with me. And then a green plant leaned over one day and said, "She's gone. Do you mind if I take over?" And I said, I can't even stop, whatever. And she went, "Shh," and just all the green stuff fell on me. And for the next couple of years, everything was green. And I saw myself, it took me about a year to realize that I'm seeing myself pissing like in a dream. And that's not what she's talking about. She's talking about the importance of my pee to your freaking camel, to his fucking goat, to my fucking, pardon me, to my beautiful. No, sorry, I'm from New York.
I am too.
Okay, so, once in a while the words fly. Anyway, let me just say, so it happened that way, that it happened with white magic, and then it happened with black magic. Black magic I got stuck on because black magic is scary. And if you read my book, at the very end, dealing with black magic, I'm being promised all sorts of things that I might have liked when I was 6 years old, 8 years old, 20 years old, 30 years old. I could have the girls, I could have some money, I could have x-ray vision, things that ran the gamut of your life. And like, I want x-ray vision, I want to look under the girl's dress, when you're 10, 12,
Right.
okay, 33. Anyway,
Maybe,
but still, and it was like, I can't take that. But the problem with that black magic is, and which is why black magic, I think, has a bad word all around the world. Because once you deal with it, you have a little of the magnetic power that holds everything together on your fingertips or, wherever. And it's very difficult to not use it for personal reasons. If you know you can get this girl that you want, or this boy that you want, or that guy in the car dealership will drop the price $3,000 if you just use the black magic. But you know what? The spirits will never work with you again. That's not what's there. That's the test. That's not what's, what it's there for. It's there to hold things together, for you to help hold your world together, keep your family, your important people together. It's not there for you to grab stuff for yourself. Basically, karma. It's not there for you to be a selfish motherfucker. It's there for you to realize it's up to me to hold my family together. Even if we're broken, it's up to me to make sure my friends feel safe enough, no matter where they are, even if they're not near me, that I sing to them, that I, whatever, shake rattles in their name to keep them safe. Which I don't know if it helps, but anyway. So that was one of the things with Julio, and it's one of the things when you talk about do these experiences build on one another? I don't know that they build on one another, in the first 6 months. Sometimes I guess with people they do, sometimes they don't. And I won't say that the visions, even if you're going through a period of 2 years of red magic, 3 years of red magic, the visions weren't always the same, but it all had to do with healing, getting the bloodstream, find out where the blockage is, see what kind of block it is. Can you move it? Can you shift it? Is it cancerous? Are there plants you can deal with? Is there a plant you can ask for help? Can I help fix this person? Now, I can't have 20 people calling me and say, fix me, because you know what? I told you I was a lousy student, you know? So I get lucky sometimes, but it's really sometimes. And other people were much better students than I were, I think. Um, but it doesn't mean I wasn't shown this stuff, even if I didn't understand it all.
So you'll get a common request. Somebody has an issue with the medicine, the plant medicine, going down with you to do a ceremony. They're looking for you to fix that ailment, whatever it is that they have.
Oh,
Is that what you're referring to, or?
no, I'm referring to the 20 people a week who write me like
Oh,
emails and say, I have this problem, can you fix me? And the answer is, really, I can't, you know.
they're
I mean,
just looking for advice.
well,
Just looking for like advice seekers.
no, no, they want me to heal them. Well,
Okay.
I read your book, you did this ayahuasca for so long, you should know the answers. It's like, I'm sorry, I really don't. Now if you got a certain ailment, I might have a medicine for it. We have a pretty good supply of medicines here, but they're limited to 10 ailments. Even though I collected plants for shaman pharmaceutical, I don't have all those plants here. You know what I mean? I was collecting for a pharmaceutical house, not, for a stash for myself. So I think, no, the people who come down with me, that's very different. Those people, number one, if they got the nuts to come down with a crazy guy like me, knowing that we get dirt on our fingernails, there's no seats on the goddamn toilet because we don't want spiders biting your private parts. And they always hide under toilet seats, or black ants and snakes. And that you have to bathe in a river, because every time my friend Juan has put up like showers, I have to burn them, because the mat says showered in the river. The river is beautiful. There's only 3 families above us on the whole river, and there's not a single cow or pig or anybody else. You know what I mean? And if you go up 2 days, the water comes out of the ground. So it is the most beautiful water in the world. This is where we bathe. This is where we swim. Don't pee in the water. But you know what I mean? This is like the most beautiful water in the world. It's the jungle. Don't. So those people who actually end up with me, sometimes they need physical healing. But my team includes 2 or 3 people who know. I mean, Julio's daughter, his son-in-law, 5 of his grandkids, they were raised with this guy. He healed people crazily. I mean, he was just wonderful with jungle medicines. Forget about the magic and the
Hmm.
just jungle medicines. There's lots of stuff they can do for lots of ailments, and lots of people come back fixed. Um, but and half the people though come because they're 40 or 50 and they're going through whatever the life crisis is. And while somebody else buys a Corvette, they come on the trip with me. Buying a fancy car wasn't it. My trip is a lot cheaper than a fancy car, so I'm a lot more affordable than a Corvette. But, I mean, they still take a chance, a wild chance. Will this guy actually show? Will he actually have a team? Will he actually pay for everything? Will there be a hotel? Will somebody pick us up at the airport? I mean, this huge leap of faith to go to a foreign country to meet this knucklehead and hope that I'm actually there and willing to take care of people? And the answer is yes, of course. Of course. But they don't know that when they sign up. I mean, I know it's in their head, their fear, and they'll often express that to me later, like, I didn't know if you're going to show up. Now this is the greatest trip of my life. I know, you're like, good, I'm glad. But I wish you'd have told me you were afraid when we were talking on the phone. I
So
would have
that's
been in touch with 20 people.
so. This is so you do these how often? How many times a year? And
Normally,
we're talking about this. I just want to like just so the listeners know where you have you have like an excursion or a program on pgorman.com where people
well,
sign up.
Amazon Jungle Jaunt.
Sorry.
It's a jaunt. It means we go to some of my favorite places that if you tried to find them yourself would take you several years, like it took me. And I kind of condense it. So in 9.5 days, I get you through the city. I get you on an overnight riverboat. I get you to a jungle town. I get you traveling in a 20-foot boat this far off the water,
This is
across the Amazon.
Iquitos. Am I saying it right?
Iquitos, but we go a couple of 100 kilometers south of Iquitos to go where we're going, and then and 25 kilometers towards Brazil. So we're kind of in the middle of nowhere when we get there. Um, they're called jungle jaunts. We have a ton of fun. We do lots of medicine along the way. Always invited. You don't have to do it. You don't want to do it. You know what I mean? Today, two friends and I did Sapo, frog sweat.
Yes, I'm curious. I have very limited.
You see my arm there?
Let's look at that. It's a nice, decent bicep there, sir.
No.
And there's this.
I'm dying, but you see those burn marks?
Yeah.
They're almost the size of a cigarette. Today was hell. After which we did snuff, which is
What was
called
that?
new among the Matses, a snuff.
Oh
It's
yeah.
a mixture of tobacco and the inner bark of the cacao tree. So it's kind of like a snuff speedball. You have the rush from tobacco, and you have the analgesic from the cacao. Cacao is, what we make chocolate from. Not Hershey's. They don't use cacao, but I mean,
It's pure.
real chocolate
Pure.
manufacturing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you make ash of both. I mean, the matzahs do, and then they smash it. And now other people call that rapé. And it's a snuff, and you use a kind of a long tube. Somebody blows it up the other person's nose. Or you have one where you can put it in your mouth and blow it up your own nose. But very powerful medicine, both of them very powerful medicines. And considering how much I smoke, I have to do a lot of sapo, which eliminates a lot of toxins.
Can you mind talking a little bit about Sapo and just because
There's a frog called Medusa bicolor.
Sorry.
Medusa bicolor. You could buy it in aquariums in the United States, anywhere from 75 to 150 bucks. It's it's called the giant waxy monkey tree frog. It's about the size of a palm. It probably weighs 3 ounces, 4 ounces. A good sized female might weigh more if she's pregnant with 200 eggs, especially she might weigh 5. But that's it. And they crawl very slowly. They use, with these giant pads they have. And when they're collected by the Matzahs, and I assume they were collected for eating at some point, and then whoever collected them, when they're frightened, they give off, they call sudor, sweat. Just a little creamy substance along their back, their legs, and their sides. That substance goes through your epidermis into your bloodstream and speeds up your heart rate a lot.
Okay.
And it's got a lot of peptides, short proteins, that act like Miss Pac-Man running around eating poisons that are in your body. You know that red candy you ate when you were a kid? Red dye 43? Well, that never leaves your body. Use sapo or cambo, the Brazilian word for it, and it'll clean it out. You'll get rid of it. Your pee is going to stink for a couple of days. Don't even want to say what defecation is going to look like for a couple of days, but you're going to get rid of a lot of toxins. And with regular use, you can get a little cleaner, a little cleaner, a little cleaner. And your one of the peptides is a vasodilator, so it stretches your arteries and your veins. And in stretching them, it's like, imagine you got crud in here in your hand, if you can see that. Imagine there's crud in here and all the lines in your hand, and somebody stretches it, and that crud is going to, some of it's going to fall out. Well, if a little crud falls out, you're going to get a little bit more blood running through that artery. You get a little more blood, you're going to get a little more oxygen. You get a little more oxygen,
You
your
function better.
brain, your heart, your liver, your kidney, everything gets a little more oxygen. Everything's a little healthier. And when you do it regularly, it just, okay. I mean, it took you 40 years, 30 years to put that junk in there, or just to collect it from driving around or smoking cigarettes. So you're not going to get rid of it in a single day or 2 days. But, over the course of years, you can eliminate, if you could eliminate 10%, 20% of the junk in your arteries, hell, half the people who are getting stents in arterial surgery wouldn't even need it. I don't know if it's 10%. Okay, just take that as a more than six. It's a more than six. More than six people would probably not need surgery than currently do get it.
And does it cut?
And the medicine is applied by taking a small stick. Can you see this? And I spit a little on this after I washed my mouth out very, very well, brush my teeth, wash my mouth, clean up completely. And we take a little of this and we take a knife and scrape just a bit of this with the saliva and burn somebody with this. And then take a knife and take that and put it on that burn. And in about 15 seconds, you're going to think, I really hate Peter Gorman now. Because your heart's going to be racing, your head's going to be cracking open. You're going to wish you were freaking dead because it'd be much more comfortable than what you're going through. And that's going to get worse for the next 15 minutes, 12 minutes. After about 12, 13 minutes, you're over the top. And because these things are considered they are, most of the peptides in this are bioactive, which means your body thinks it created them. And so when your body's had enough, your body simply says, shut down, receptor site, no more. Okay? For those who don't know what bioactive is, and I am not a scientist, so forgive me if I sound ridiculous, but it's how it explained to me. Let's say you try to put heroin in your bloodstream. Your heroin is going to go to your opioid receptors, right? Those are the ones meant for that sort of thing.
Right.
Except they don't quite fit. A receptor is, a little receiving part of your body that will take in something and utilize it. And when it's had enough of it, just shuts down. So you put heroin in, and opioid receptors say no. The heroin insists. That's like sticking a screwdriver up a lock and screwing around with the lock until the lock pops open. Okay, now you didn't really break the lock, but that lock will never close properly again because you jimmied it. So your receptor site is now open forever, which is where addiction comes in. Hey, I'm not closed yet. Give me a little more. Give me a little more. Give me a little more. And every time you jam that open further, you need more and more and more. The peptides in frog sweat, cambo or sapo, are bioactive, which means they fit as if your body created them. And so when your body's had enough, they shut down. There is no dependence. There's no need for more. There is no addiction, and it's and this particular, I don't know, I don't mean to get on a crazy tangent, but this material is really under severe scrutiny by a lot of pharmaceutical companies who are trying to figure out how they can isolate peptides from the material, tweak them to be able to get, their copyrights, and then put them on the market.
Of course.
That's the way capitalism works.
When did you start getting involved with Sapo? Was this something while you were doing concurrently with ayahuasca?
I had done ayahuasca the first time in '84. I did it again in '85, a couple of times. And in '86, I was on the Rio Galvez, and I was with the Matzes Indians, Mayaruna, Matzes, same. And I was pointing things in somebody who became my friend, Pablo, a headman. He had 4 wives, and each one had a house, and it was a rainy day, and I was in one of his houses with his main wife, Mashu. And I was pointing to things to try to make a little few-word dictionary, right? And since they didn't have a written language, I was trying to do it phonetically and trying to remember, like, I took phonetics when I was like 9 years old. I don't know if I remember where to put, like inverted pyramids, upside down pyramids, straight lines, 2 dots, you know what I mean? So I know it was crazy. And when I pointed to what I knew were medicines, because I'd been in the jungle already 2 or 3 times, people always hung medicines over the jungle in little leaf bags, or if they had them, plastic bags, not close to the fire, but 3 feet above the fire, so that they would not mold, and so that water bugs or cockroaches wouldn't eat them. Okay. So when I pointed the medicines, in this case, instead of Pablo giving me the name for it, he just simply took one bag down, goes, sapo, sapo, sapo. I had no idea what he was talking about. And he takes out the stick, like I just showed you, and he goes, scrapes it a little bit, and puts it down, takes a little piece of twig from the fire, grabbed my arm in a vice-like grip, burned me a couple of times, scrapes it, and then put the goop that he just spit in on my arm. And I looked to my jungle teacher, the guy who was teaching me jungle survival, Moises. I said, well, what's this? And he says, I don't know. I've never seen it. The next thing you know, I'm like, okay, I'm collapsing. I'm falling. I think I've been poisoned. And the little kids, they're pushing me out of the house so I don't puke and poop in the house, in the hut. It was just a dirt hut, but they didn't want that dirt floor dirty. And the kids were like kicking me the way you would kick, like, is this animal dead yet? And because I'd never heard of it, I had no.
The kids were kicking you, saying, "Is this animal dead
yet?" That's what I felt like to me. Okay, they were just like light taps. They weren't kicking me to hurt me. They were just kicking me like, "Is he still going to bite us?" And I thought, "Oh my God, I was poisoned. I'm going to die here. What the hell? These people are dangerous. I know that. Everybody at the museum told me, don't go there. It's too dangerous. They're going to kill you." And here I am. And sure enough, they're killing me. And a couple hours later, I woke up in the hut they'd given me to use, and I heard a conversation. I thought, there's nobody in my hut. And I looked, and the closest people were my friend Pablo's first wife, Mashu, and one of his other three wives, Marta, talking across the entire camp, 20, 30 yards away. And it sounded like they were talking at a normal voice level, which completely surprised me. Like, what happened to my hearing? And then I looked in trees and I saw differently than I've ever seen before. I saw monkeys in a tree, but not on the outside, like when they're moving. They were on the inside, as if all the hues of the green had become very distinct. So instead of seeing a wall of green, I saw through the leaves because there were 20 different shades of green. And that became three-dimensional rather than looking at it and seeing just green, 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 like a wall.
This is from
And
Sapo?
yeah, and then I realized, oh my God, I'm really strong. I'm really, really strong. And um, so the next day we went hunting, and I was able to kind of, not quite, but almost keep up with the Matses who jog through the jungle. They absolutely jog. They do not walk. They, you know, and at a good pace. And they don't get bit by snakes. They don't run into spike trees, spine trees. They just move their body back and forth. And I was surprised. And when we got tired, everybody took a 5-minute rest and went on. And of course, one of the peptides in the medicine, saporicamba, from the frog, turns on an adrenal drip, which allows you to be hungry, sleep, not sleep, you know, not flight or fight, simply a little bit more juice. And
Okay.
it turns on like I mean, I don't know how to explain it other than adrenal drip versus a full adrenal response. Let's run away.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
Just a little bit of like, oh, I'm tired. Okay, rest. Oh, that was a great 10 minutes. Let's go. And you go again for 3 more hours. And you can do it for 24 hours, which is why I'm acting strange now because I just did it this morning and 2 days ago.
And the intensity of it, as far as like your heart racing and however your mind reacts to it, that lasts about 15 minutes, 12 minutes.
It'll peak at around 12, 14 minutes.
Okay.
But you might need to like rest for another 30. You know, some people just get wiped out from it, or some people take 2 hours, you know, and it depends on the strength of the medicine. And it's really hard to judge that. Imagine if that frog, it's used by the frog as its protective coating. Now imagine a tree snake, a constrictor, is the frog's primary predator. And the tree snake is sitting on a branch and he's kind of either comes to the frog or the frog is forced to walk to it. Either way, the snake opens his mouth very wide and the frog walks in. Now the frog's got about a split second to get rid of that snake somehow. So it gives off this stuff and it all goes into the membrane of the snake's mouth and it freezes the snake almost instantly. Okay? Now that frog has a moment because the snake cannot close its mouth and push that frog into its throat where it can crush it.
Mm-hmm.
And constrictors have very little teeth. They don't really kill as a rule. I mean, they kill certain insects, but they wouldn't kill a frog. They're very tiny little teeth. They're meant to hold the prey in place until the constrictor can get in his throat and begin to crush it. So the frog simply backs out of the snake's mouth and walks away. But now, if the frog saw 2 snakes in 1 week, just like a snake takes several days to recreate new venom, right? If it ate an animal and then tomorrow you step on it, even if it's a black cobra, if it used all of its or most of its venom on that animal, and now it's lazy and sleeping right in the middle of a path, and you accidentally step on it and it bites you, you'll end up being in India, for instance. I survived a black cobra. Well, no, you survived a black cobra that had just eaten an animal and didn't have any venom left. So you got sick for a day, but you didn't die. If a second snake were to attack that frog in, within 10, 15 days of the frog, giving off its first sweat, the second snake's probably going to win because the frog's got juice, but it doesn't have any juice in the juice.
Right.
In the same way, the medicine that you collect, it's very difficult to tell, has this frog been frightened in the last week? Okay. And so if it has, so sometimes the medicine is strong, sometimes the medicine is not very strong.
There's no way to gauge that, really.
The way to gauge it is that I take my tongue and lick both ends of the stick. And if I get completely ripped out of my head, that means it's strong.
It's strong. As far as let me ask you, this is something that people would like ask me commonly about ayahuasca. As far as those doses,
Right?
can you adjust to somebody if it's their first time versus if they're somebody like you, how much they're actually going to drink, or how potent the batch is? Does that make sense?
Okay. I probably drank with 15 or 20 different people over my course of my life. Okay. There's only really 3 people that I went back to drink with more than twice. And part of the reason I went back was because of how well they made their ayahuasca. And Julio was my primary teacher, or primary ayahuasquero. His medicine was very powerful. I mean,
okay, so I guess it goes to
if you had 6 gulps of Julio's medicine, I mean, that's 6 gulps. That means 2 ounces, 3.5 ounces, 3 ounces tops. You knew you're going to hell tonight, but you're going to learn something. Francisco Pancho, 4 gulps, and you were going to be freaking immobile because you always put Chiricsanango in there, which is Brugfelsia family, which used to be Brugmancia family until they separated about 10 years ago. But it's the same sort of family as Datura. So you have no fingers, no toes, no lips, and you certainly can't stand up. You can't do anything. And it's going to last 12 hours,
okay.
10 hours.
Wow, so it lasts 10 to 12 hours.
No, normally it would last 2 hours.
But it depends on I guess what I'm asking.
If you add Chiricsanango,
Okay.
it could add. If you add Datura, even just a couple of leaves, it could last longer than that.
Okay.
Which is, in my way of thinking, because I'm a chicken, way too long. Not that I haven't been there, I just don't recommend it.
Especially probably if it's your first time
When my people come to the jungle, I have them for 5 days, and I always recommend they come a day or 2 early. They're going to pay for their own hotel, their own food, and all that for the first couple of days, right? Before the trip starts. But I say, come on down, meet my team, get comfortable with us. The more time I have with them, but even if they just show up on the day the trip starts, they're not going to drink ayahuasca until the fifth night.
Okay.
That gives me 4 or 5 nights to run their diet, to get to know them, to get them to bond with everybody else or anybody else who's on the trip, so that we have one group, not 7 individuals, 10 individuals, but we have one group, like an octopus.
Yes, yes, sir.
Legs, but
One
we
coop.
have to have, or
Unity.
otherwise I can't function. Those people, the Cornero, Julio's dead, but either his son or his nephew, he taught both, will serve these days. And I'm really cautious about, I mean, if somebody claims to have lots of experience, because we're going to drink 2 or 3 times during the trip, if somebody claims to have a lot of experience, maybe I'll give them 4 gulps the first time. Not 6, give them 4. If they handle that well, I might give that person 6 next time. Let them cut loose.
Let me ask
Other
you.
people
Let me
might only need 2.
let me just interject real quick.
Yep.
Handling, what qualifies as handling it well versus not handling it well?
Well, everybody's going to be scared. There are, once in a while, there's somebody I've got to escort out of the room a little bit. I mean, we gently, like, I've got 6 or 8 of us looking at whoever's drinking. So we've got a big team watching. And we might need somebody decides that they're going to start banging their fist and annoying everybody else in the room, or they're going to start singing, or they're going to start dancing. So we corral them and encourage them to come out of the room. Dance in front of the trees all you want. You just can't dance in the room. You can't sing. People came here to hear the ayahuasqueros sing, not you. They already know this ahead of time. So if they're ignoring a couple of those very simple rules, they're handling well. If somebody is screaming that I poisoned them and that I'm CIA and they knew that from the beginning, and okay, this is not going well because you're now terrifying everybody else in the room who's wondering, is Peter CIA and is he poisoning me? And later that person's going to come into the kitchen, and have some fruit after the whole experience, go, wow, it was the greatest thing I've ever had. Oh, that was fun. Like, you scared everybody else to death. You were so bad, we had to duct tape you. You know what I mean? We only had to duct tape one person ever.
You actually duct
We had to duct tape his arms and legs. And my daughter had to sit on him for 2 hours. But he broke every rule in the book. He screamed, he yelled, he was nuts. I can't believe I served him.
You look, you visually, you look
And
stressed.
he stayed, and he never, I wouldn't serve him again. That was not handling it well.
So,
I mean, he was trying to jump in the river at midnight when
while
the
they're
caimans come out. And the caimans on the river are black caiman. They are very aggressive. They're very dangerous. They will come and eat you. I mean, this is the 3rd most dangerous crocodilian species in the damn world after Nile and the Australian ones. And this guy's like, I know I can swim with them. Yes, duct tape is the answer. Because I can't have you dying.
yeah, that would be
What?
that's like an image that people that are looking to discredit ayahuasca, they'll blow that up and make it look like it was your fault rather than.
Well, nobody took pictures of that.
I'm sorry, sir.
Nobody took pictures of the
No,
duct tape.
I'm saying if he jumped in with the caimans and he was.
Oh, he wasn't not going to jump in with the camera. No, we have, as I say, we have a big team watching people. I mean, not handling it well. often there is somebody who is very, very frightened. Now, whether they're frightened by their own ghosts of their own life,
Mm-hmm.
or they remember a stepdad who molested them, or, you know what I mean, a teacher, or I don't mean to be rude. I just mean,
No, it's
things
fair.
come up
Mm-hmm.
if you
Repress
start to
repressed
very
memories.
subconscious. And those people, usually my team will bring them out to me outside, and I'm right near the front door. But they'll bring them out to me because we don't want to deal with that inside. And I will try to get them to get through that. That person, as difficult as it was, won't be told, oh, you can't drink next time. It'll be totally up to them. It's always voluntary. It's always, we're offering this. If you don't want to drink, just tell me you don't want to drink. If you want to drink a little, just drink a little. You know what I mean? It's up to you. You let me know. We'd still love you in the circle, you know,
Mhm.
around the cornetto. We'd love to hear you singing, hear the, not sing, hear the singing, but please don't feel pushed. Now, if you want to ask, take that one to the limit. 7, 8 years ago, I had a woman from Central Europe, Eastern Europe. She was 70 years old. Now I'm getting there. But at the time, she seemed much older than me. But she was so Central Europe that she was still wearing like a heavy woolen coat that went down to her ankles in the jungle, under which was a dress that went down to her ankles. Okay? I mean, this is a 70-year-old Central European woman. I mean, Eastern European, you know what I mean?
Mm.
And she came down to see the jungle. She just said, I read the thing. We spoke on the phone. She said, I just want to see the jungle. I want to go out on a canoe at night. I want to see birds. I want to see what kind of fish get caught in a net or on a string. That's all I want. I'm not doing medicine and blah, blah. Night comes for ayahuasca. I want to sit in the circle. Fine. I'm not going to serve you. And then when I say to the Cornadero, she's not going to drink, just sing her a song, you know? Anyway, she said, no, I am drinking. I am drinking now. I said, what? I changed my mind. I'm drinking. All right. So I gave her, I told the Cornetto, yeah, that's enough. That's enough. That's enough. Like a half a glass. 2 hours later, she was calling me, and the safe word is Peter. If you say the word Peter,
Makes sense.
it's easy to remember. If you say the word Peter, it means I'm allowed to come and work on you. I'm allowed to actually touch your back. I'm allowed to see if I see negativity. I'm allowed to talk to you. Okay. You could say help. You could say this and that. I can't do nothing. If you use the word Peter, you give me permission. And they know this well, well ahead of time. She used the word Peter over and over. And I went over to her. She was in some strange, really horrible battle. It was frightening. I couldn't get her out of the room. She bothered every other guest. She totally interrupted everything, screaming, moaning. There was no way to move her. She was 6 foot tall and she was anchored to that floor with her goddamn wool coat on in the middle of the Amazon. I dealt with her as best I could. And when the whole thing is over, I generally invite people down to the kitchen. I say, okay, everybody, pardon me for interruption, but is everybody okay? And they'll say, no, no, no. Okay, can you, Christian, sing me 20 more minutes? Okay, after 20 more minutes, guys, you know, uh, Hyro, can you put on a light, please? German, put on a light. And they'll put on a tiny little kerosene light. And I'll say, fellas and girls, I'm going to go down to the kitchen. I'm going to cut open some fruit and maybe put some crackers out. Please come on down, and if you want to share, share. If you don't want to share, don't. But please come on down, have some fruit to settle your stomach, etc. Well, this woman came down, and 45 minutes later, everybody had left except her. And that's always serious. So I was like, I'm not going to say her name. What do we need to talk about? What did I do wrong? How did I betray you? What did I do wrong? She said, no. And she told me her story. Her story was that she was 3 or 4. Her sister was 6 or 7. Her other sister was 10. Her mother was put in an insane asylum in Czechoslovakia, I think, when it was Russian controlled, and or further east than that. And her father hired a housemaid. Her 2 sisters committed suicide at 13 and 19 or something like that. Okay, if I have the dates wrong, I'm wrong. And she said, none of us could remember 3 years. And that night she had remembered those 3 years. And those 3 years were when the mom was put in the insane asylum, and she blamed her mom for leaving them alone, right? Her dad hired a full-time maid or assistant for the house. He was a bureaucrat. And during the night, she remembered for the first time in 67 years that the maid had brought in men regularly who fucked them, and she filmed them, and she sold the motion pictures of the 3 girls getting abused. Okay? So the next time it was time to drink, I was sure she would not drink, and she said, no, I'm drinking again. This time, she used the safe word Peter probably 45 minutes into the ceremony. I mean, it was early. And I still couldn't move her out of her place. I couldn't get her out of the hut. Did not want to be away from the singing of the corndero. This time, she was in a battle. But the battle was between her and her alter ego, or kind of a demon, but I know really it was her alter ego. Okay. It was the ego that had suppressed that pain. And it suppressed the pain for 67 frickin' years. All right? She was 3 years old when it started. So it was the part of her that suppressed that pain, which blocked out. And her sisters both committed suicide without ever mentioning that they had been abused. They just committed suicide because they couldn't handle something happened, and we don't know what it was. All 3 of them were messed. And in that ceremony, my job was to try to tell her alter ego, look, you were very important for all this time, but she now doesn't need you. She understands what happened to her. But at that time, her alter ego's got its own life. It doesn't want to go anywhere. It's like, fine, like, whoa, I'm not going anywhere. I've had 70 years here. I'm a full-grown MFer on my own. So her battle that night was with that one. And I won't say it was my battle, because that would make me pretentious and important. It was her bat. And that night she came down and she stayed again until everyone left. And when everyone left the kitchen, and I sleep in the kitchen, so I said, if you like to, we got two long tables, 8 feet long each, benches on both sides. So I said, sleep on the other bench on the other table. Put your head down like this, and you'll be fine. I'll sleep there. So no, I want to talk about this monster in me. I realized the monster, and we had not talked about this before. I had been thinking about this stupid monster. You know what I mean? That's what I was seeing. That's what I thought I was fighting. But who am I? I'm nobody. And so she suddenly comes out with that. It blows my mind. Like, I'm the monster in me. I have to get rid of it because it protected me. But now it doesn't want to go away. And that was kind of the end of it with her. Okay. She's gone back to Eastern Europe and she's kind of private. And she writes me a Christmas card and I ask her and she won't talk. But she's still alive at 78. And she's very glad that she understands why her sisters committed suicide. And she's very glad she didn't. She's very sad that she was blaming her mom for the 3 years she couldn't remember, as if her mom had done something bad. And she's very glad that her mom has been forgiven. She's very angry at her father for not noticing. And I've told her over and over, your father meant well. He hired a full-time nanny to take care of little kids.
Yeah.
He didn't mean that she was gonna, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And the woman said, when we talked, she said, yeah, you would never have thought this nanny was that person. So I'm not saying she couldn't have invented all this under ayahuasca. She could have. Okay. But I don't think she did.
So when people are having their experiences and you're running the ceremony, are you able to see what they're seeing? Or
I'm not running the ceremony.
sorry.
Okay. I mean, the Cordendero's running the ceremony.
Sorry, yes, I'm sorry.
So I'm I'm generally outside on a bench from one of those kitchen tables
Do you drink when every
sometimes,
okay.
but I always take at least a few fingerfuls because when we take it from the big pot and pour it into the bottle to cool it off, the pot always has residue and it's always the thickest. So I generally take at least 3 of those. Now, I do serve here, not to anybody, only to people who've been on my trips.
Okay.
And I only call a ceremony once, twice a year when somebody from one of my trips is upended. They don't fit into their life anymore. And so I'll call in some real good friends who've been on usually several trips. And we'll have a 3-4 day weekend. No money passes hands, it's not allowed to. It's all on me. I can't do it often because it costs me $1,000, $2,000. But they're already paying to fly in. They're flying in from freaking Africa. They're flying in from Asia. They're flying in from California, New York, They already spent their money. I pay for my ex-wife to pick them up at the airport most of the time. Or my friend Devin, who lives here. I rent porta potties. If I have 4 people, we could just use my one toilet. But if I got 12 people coming in, we've got to rent a couple of porta potties. I got to buy air mattresses. You know what I mean? I got to make sure there's food. Thursday, Friday night's freaking party night. There's got to be some beer. There's got to be some booze. Saturday is freaking work day. Sunday is work day. Sunday night's party again. But yeah, we got to do. But otherwise, I don't serve. I won't serve people. I won't. People ask me all the time. It's like no, 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 no. Find it according there. So when you ask me, can I see? If somebody calls Peter the safe word,
Mhm.
then I really try to see. And once in a while, I get lucky.
That's remarkable. It's hard to fathom.
No, but I'm already in the same space with them. I might not see it exactly the same way they see it. Like you and me both agree the sky is blue, right? If it's blue, if it's blue, if it's not. But I don't know what color blue you're seeing. We just agree that whatever color you're seeing, we're going to call blue.
Mm-hmm.
And you agree whatever color I'm seeing, we call blue. Oh, blue sky. I don't know what the hell color you're seeing. Are you seeing purple, green, you're red? I mean, I don't know. But whatever you're seeing, we're calling it blue. And whatever I'm seeing, we're calling it blue. I got a suspicion it might be a similar color, but because we all have different eyes and different experience, I bet it's never exactly the same blue. Even if we're all seeing blue, we're not seeing the same blue. So if I am graced by the medicine to be allowed a little insight, then fantastic. But if I were to brag, oh, I see, I'd be so full of baloney. I'd stink of liverwurst. I mean, it would be past baloney. We'd be on liverwurst, which I happen to love, like once a year. I can't help it. Once a year, I have to have liverwurst. I know it's just pig lips. I'm sorry, pigs, but I just have to have a liver. Anyway,
So if anyone wants to send Pete, if
Cordero.
anyone wants to send Mr. Gorman anything, liverwurst be what to send them.
Sorry, what are we doing?
I said if anyone wants to send you anything, liverwurst would be appreciated. Just once though.
Okay.
Sorry, the curandero.
The Cordero usually sees better. On those couple of times a year when I serve former guests, I see much better because I'm doing the singing. I'm the one who served. I'm paying attention to each one of you, very carefully. And I've got my 2 or 3 associates. They could be my grandkids. They could be my ex-wife's new kids, uh, friends. I got 4 or 5 people keeping an eye out for everybody. You know what I mean? And so I can relax and just look at where they are. When I'm down in the jungle, I am sitting outside. I'm going to hear something wrong, or I hear a struggle, or I feel a struggle. I tell 2 or 3 of my people, I've got usually 3 women and 4 men outside. Go inside, check so and so. If they need it, bring them outside. And 2 or 3 people go inside and they gently pick somebody up and they bring them outside and sit them next to me on the bench. And I'll say, you use the word Peter. I'm going to touch your back. What do you need? Well, I'm afraid of this. I'm afraid of that. Yeah, I already saw that. I mean, when they're using the word Peter, I've usually seen it. Okay. But I'd be totally exaggerating if I pretended that I was a real curandero who, on the other hand, Julio saw everything.
Wow.
One time, I mean, as an explanation of that, one time I was drinking with my friend Larry DeVal, a great artist who started doing Ironman triathlons at age 50 and is now 75. And all he could do is like, Pete, I can't do more than 40 miles of bike riding after 2 miles of swimming and 20 miles of running. I can't even do a full marathon. Like, Larry, you're 75. You should be in an old folks' home. Just die already. Anyway, but I love him. And he's been with me in the jungle several times over the years. And I'm sorry.
Julio.
Julio, Moises and Larry drank. I drank. And I realized about halfway through it how small I was, how completely inconsequential. And then I realized not only that, I'm a burden on the entire universe. I am the worst. I am, it was like looking at a Twilight Zone where you have a Veritas mirror. And there was a Twilight Zone like that. And in the mirror, when the guy finally got it, like looked at himself, he saw a monster. So I saw this monster. What a pathetic human being I am. And I thought, okay, I gotta kill these guys. I'll just take them out with a machete. If I throw them in a river, I go slowly back to Iquitos and say, there was something horrible happen. If I take a full week to get back to Iquitos, by the time we come back in 13 days, their bodies will be gone. Crocodiles will be, crocodilians will have eaten them. You know what I mean? Or anacondas. I mean, they'll be gone. And I was going through this pathology of insanity, and suddenly I felt smoke on my face. It was the first time Julio ever smoked my face. He was right here, 3 inches in front of my face, blowing black tobacco. And I looked up, opened my eyes, he goes, Pedro, you don't have to believe everything you see under ayahuasca. But I think I'll put away the machetes. And he took my machete and put it away.
That's
That
unbelievable.
mother effer had seen everything. He didn't say, I saw what you were thinking. He just said, you don't have to believe everything you're seeing. I think I'll put away the machetes. That to me was, that's what a curandero can see when he can see. And you know what? I have never been there. So anybody who ever mistakenly calls me a curandero, no, they missed the point. That's what a curandero does. He does something, these guys, and women, the very best of the best, are exemplary. It's like when you have a doctor and you walk in and say, oh, my throat hurts. And he looks down and says, you know what? You got a problem in your kidney. Let me take a look. And then, no, my throat hurts. And he goes, and you go, ow! How'd you know that? It turns out you got kidneys or whatever. Like, I just know. I just looked at you. I saw. And those were extraordinary doctors. You walk in for a divorce with a lawyer, and the lawyer looks at you and says, I think your problem is blah, blah, blah. Like, no, I came in for a divorce. No, that's not your issue. We got to solve this one. You didn't even know about that one. Yes, he does. Those are few and far between. You've had them as girlfriends, boyfriends over your life. You've run into a few of them. People who have this extraordinary sight, second sight, insight, something that the rest of us don't have. Julio was among those. He was still just a simple fisherman.
Mm-hmm. When you use the term
Your
curandero,
poor audience must be freaking tired of me by now. They're like thinking, "Oh my God, will this just end?"
no. if you have a timeout, we could start to. But I did want to ask you about there was two things that I have written down aside from however we're flowing. Um, the term that we are used to hearing here is shaman.
Right?
I haven't heard you. I'd be remiss, especially to my audience who's probably hasn't had an in-depth understanding of ayahuasca at all. You hear
There are in the Amazon, word for a healer is curandero. Okay? The word shaman comes from the Tinglet, Western Russian, Western. What's it called up there? Siberia, right? In very northwestern Siberia, there's the word shaman. And they were people who, as far as I understand, Michael, shoot, I forget his name. I shouldn't. Michael Harner first used the word shaman in a major way publicly, talking about the Tinglet healers who would eat Amanita muscaria mushrooms, very powerful, dangerous, blah, 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 very hallucinogenic, and often mistaken for Amanita phalloids, which will kill you in 30 minutes. So don't just guess, don't eat them. But these guys would do it, and their word for themselves, then they would pee, and people would drink their pee. So they were getting a modified version of the Amanita muscaria. They were called shaman. So Michael brought that in. Now everybody wants to, oh, shaman, shaman, shaman. So in real life in Peru, that was an introduced word. You'd call them curanderos. Now a curandero is a healer, and I know rock healers, smoke healers, egg healers, cuy healers, ayahuasca healers, tree healers, root healers. I know 20 kinds of healers, partly because my son got sick and my mother-in-law knew all the healers in the world and brought them in to help heal him after he got out of 70 days of intensive care. They're just called curanderos down there. Julio is a curandero. Now, some people could be just an ayahuasquero. They do ayahuasca, they've been trained in that, but they don't really know all the plants for healing. Julio grew up in the jungle, and he was mestizo, but half his blood was Indian blood, indigenous blood. And so his mom was full indigenous. She taught him plants from the jungle out the wazoo. So after he got shot twice in the wars, or shot once, he did ayahuasca. Then he had to learn ayahuasca after he got shot the second time in a different war. But he already knew the plants. So he would never have used the word shaman. But he would have used the word curandero, ayahuasquero, you know?
Just,
And
I
he
want.
would,
I thought that was
go ahead.
important to clarify because a lot of people just think of shamans, and we've been
Yeah,
using a
no,
lot.
the shaman is a brand new word. I mean, it's been there 20 years in the lexicon, but it's only been there 20 years. And, hell, I've been there 36 now. Oh, that's a long time. I'm old. Anyway,
No.
36 is nothing, but it certainly was never used before 1998, 99. When I was living there, and I had my bar, the Cold Beer Blues Bar, on the toughest port in town. That still was not a word and that was early 98 that my wife and I and our kids opened that bar. So that word came along probably 99, 2000. Michael
Okay.
Harner's book was published in 88, I think. I could be wrong. It might even be 78. And it was a collection of small essays by several anthropologists, and including Richard Schultes, father of modern ethnobotany, and his student, not his student, but his associate, who followed up his work on peyote. And so, I mean, it's actually a pretty good book of small essays, and that's where the word shaman came in. And so a few people used it, but it didn't become popular. Curandero is cure, healer. And in the Amazon region, these days, a lot of people have small motorboats, small motors, And so they can put them on the back of canoes or what they call pekipekis, and they can get to town or a real town in an hour, 3 hours. When I first got there, those were very, very rare because the Chinese didn't introduce them until about 2000, cheap motors. And so until then, it cost $1,500 for a Briggs and Stratton. Very few people had those motors. I did, but nobody else did. So everybody had a canoe everywhere. And so everybody, you couldn't go to town to get medicine. You had to depend on the local healer. And every river had a local healer, somebody who knew the plants. Oh, your kid's got a toothache. And he'd tell his daughter, go out and get me this and get this and this. And, he'd chew it up for 10 minutes and put it in the kid's mouth. And after being masticated, the kid would just stop crying. Oh, the kid's puking. Get me this and this and this. And he would run out, his daughter or son would run out and get those medicines. He knew the plants. He was a healer. And everybody depended on him. He didn't make money. I mean, once in a while they got a chicken. We got 3 pieces of, you got 12 bananas, 12 plantains. You got a leg of a wild boar that he shot 4 days ago and hadn't finished yet. You didn't do this for money. You did it because you were the one who knew.
Mm-hmm.
And even Julio always during our ceremonies, if some woman or man came down with a sick kid who's burping and puking, Julio would say, stop, Pedro. Ay, 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 ay. Disculpe. And be like, he's singing for 8 guests of mine, or he's singing for me personally on our privates, which was most of our time was just him and me. And he's like, I'm sorry, I got a sick kid over here. And disculpe, excuse me. And you go treat the kid. You're like, whoa, without you singing, I'm going crazy. Be like, shh, canta, Pedro, canta. You sing. I don't know what to sing. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just by myself. I'm going crazy. It's like, sing. Sing to yourself. Light cigarettes. Keep singing. Because cigarettes down there are magic. They're not considered poison. Of course, they're not filled with poison like ours are, but, they're. But, of course, treat the sick person first. Come back and treat us later. That's a true healer in my book. He would just make that kid stop having diarrhea. Because if he has diarrhea one more night, he's going to die. So find a plant or know what plants and have Julio always used his daughter, Lottie. And later his son-in-law, but his daughter, Lottie, and his daughter, Mabel, and one of his sons, and they would just go out and collect the plants because they knew what plants. They didn't know how to make the medicine, but when Julio told them what plants, they knew what plants to get and what parts of the plants to get. And he couldn't run around the jungle at midnight. I mean, they could. I met him when he was 72, 73. He'd go out to his fields every day, but in the daylight, at night, he couldn't run around. He's trying to take care of the baby. So he's singing and he's and his kids come back and Julio would take the medicine and he'd break it up in his hands, or he'd put it in a bowl, or he'd mash it with a stick, or he'd chew it. Every river had a Julio. Every freaking river. Now, if I'm right, your next question is going to be, so what kind of healing does ayahuasca really do? If it does any. And I'm going to tell you this. a long time ago, I got to visit Julio. And I was with him, and we're looking out from his house over the riverbank. And somebody comes paddling up the river frantically in a dugout canoe. And when he gets to us at the bend in the river, he's, is that Julio? Is that Julio? Are you the famous Corndero? Yeah, I'm Julio. What do you want? The guy pulls his canoe in, pulls it on the mud, runs up the slope because all the houses are built on hills, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't build the houses down here. When the river floods, you build them up here. So he said, every time I sell something, somebody does me damage, I get hurt. And blah, 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 blah. He went on and on about who's giving me the evil eye, who's doing bad damage to me. Julio said, yeah, I'll look. So later that day, Julio drank ayahuasca. Okay. And traditionally, only the ayahuasquero drank ayahuasca. Us gringos turn it on our heads, so we want to drink it. But in real life, you just bring them your problems and they drink it and see what the problem is, because illness is seen or bad stuff is seen as a disturbance, not on this level. The disturbance on this level is caused by a disturbance on this higher level. And if we could figure out what that is, this symptom on this level will go away. You got cancer. Well, you smoke too many cigarettes. If you stop smoking cigarettes, the cancer will go away. Oh, I have diabetes. Right. Stop eating 6,000 calories a day. Eat more lettuce and it'll go away. You know what I mean? You got bad luck. Stop treating your neighbors badly and it'll go away. Right? That's how disease is viewed in northwestern Amazonia by people like my in-laws, etc., late in-laws. And so he drank. He comes back and he says to the guy, well, it wasn't quite this way because my Spanish ain't perfect, but it was essentially good news, bad news. I said, well, the good news is nobody's giving you the evil eye. Nobody's doing you damage. Well, then why do I keep falling and hurting myself? The bad news is I saw, when you ask about this Julio or the Cordondale Sea, Julio says, I saw every time you sell anything, chickens, bananas, manioc, yuca, you go to Herrera and you drink in that little cantina with those 2 steps. And you get drunk and you come out and you trip on the bottom step. And when you fall down, you hurt yourself. You hurt your arm, you hurt your leg, you hurt your knee. The bottom step's broken. So you have 2 choices. You can either stop drinking after you sell your stuff, or you can fix the bottom step. You just fell asleep and missed that whole story. Ayahuasca curing is about seeing something as simple as
It's not the bottom
fix
step.
the bottom step. That's why you're falling. That's why you think you're being attacked. You got a broken step and you're drunk. Fix it. That's ayahuasca healing. When people want to know about ayahuasca healing, what does ayahuasca do for you? Will it help you? Will it be? Well, you've been shown. Fix the bottom step. I had a problem with my ex-wife, and we were at our worst part of our breakup. I mean, it was like screaming, yelling, the most horrible things you could do. And I woke up one night in almost cold sweat, and the words "more joy, less pain" were in my head, and I didn't know what to make of them. Well, that just 4 words: more joy, less pain. And after about 4 days, I realized, wait a minute, this is a simple roadmap. Every time she presses my buttons, I have the opportunity to create more joy or more pain. If I create more joy, there will be less pain. If I create more pain, there will be less joy. If she says, oh, you're getting fat, and I respond with, shut up, you bitch, and then we start yelling, then the kids get hurt, she storms out, I'm left alone,
More
her
pain.
mother's dying of cancer on my couch, and nothing's good. If she says, you're getting fat, and I say, wow, I thought so, thank you, I'm going to try to lose a few pounds. Yeah, you should. I will. I leave her speechless. No argument. Her mother on the couch is happy. The kids don't hear yelling, right? More joy, less pain. When people ask me, what did ayahuasca do for you? 25 years, you're still a failed human being. You smoke cigarettes, you drink a glass of wine while you're on frickin' TV. You failed. I'm like, you're right. But not entirely. Because I have kept my family, broken as we are, as a family. And we love each other, even if we're broke a little bit. But we're not broke that we hate each other. And that's because more joy, less pain. Your choice. Would you like to create more joy, or would you like to create more pain? And if the answer is, I like to create more joy, then you're going to have less pain. And so when you want to yell at somebody, even on Facebook, when you want to punch somebody in the fucking nose, because I'm fucking Irish from New York, and that's what I know how to do.
What part of New York are you from?
Queens, Whitestone. Although I admit I lost a lot of fights, I didn't win very many. I mean, but I don't think most people ask me to be in 2 fights. Even though they won, they didn't say, like, let's do that again. Okay. I would like to think that's true. I might be lying, but I think that's true. But
I'm from Staten Island.
uh,
So. And I'm in Texas now too, actually.
no, you're a fucking mob rule. Come on. Your last name is probably Spanese. I'm sorry, Italian. I'm sorry.
The Brera. It's close enough.
I cooked with a guy in Los Angeles in 1976 at a place called Fellini's. I loved this guy. He was not, I was the chef. I mean, I quickly became the chef. He was just a worker, right? But he was a day cook. His father was from Brooklyn, Bensonhurst, and he had been relocated to Los Angeles. And so this kid grew up with a mafia father who had snitched, and he was terrified. This kid was so big, so strong. He was like, are you kidding? You're not even human. You just flex your muscle and your shirt's ripped. You know what I mean? He was one of those guys. But what a wonderful kid he was. What a wonderful kid he was. And just, I mean, half the people I grew up in Whitestone. I mean, we had a whole area of Whitestone, Queens, Malba, that was all mafia. I mean, they had their own private police force. You couldn't go in there with your own bicycle because the police kept arresting me. I got arrested 3, 4 times there. They're local police, which didn't count, but they still made your father come down and give
Yeah,
you a
yeah.
bicycle.
All that, all that. Um,
I I thought the mafia was great. I mean, come from New York, I thought they were great. I remember my father went down to the Shark down the block from us, and he had a Christmas. My father was an actor, and he had come back from the national tour of The Best Man, which was a Pulitzer Prize winning play, and my father had a lead in it. The last 6 months it played in New York in the Morosco Theater, and then on the national tour. It was Gore Vidal's play. And of course, when he came back, he'd been out of circulation for 2 years. So he couldn't get a commercial, he couldn't get, a day shot at One Life to Live or any of the soaps. And we were starving, and it was Christmas, and there was nothing, nothing. And so my father went to a Shark down the block, and I went with him. It was the first time I ever heard my father go into a Shark. And he said, I need some money. And the guy said, no, Tom, I'm your neighbor. I can't give you money. Tom said, well, I got a show called The Investigation. It's coming up on Broadway. He said, Tom, I can't promise that show is going to open. What if it frickin' dies in Connecticut? What if it never opens? How are you going to pay me back? What am I going to do? I'm
what
going
am
to
I gonna
break your
do?
leg?
What am I
You're
gonna
my
do?
neighbor. I can't do that. And he said, just go in the back and grab 6 bicycles and give them to your kids. And I thought, that was wonderful for a loan shark. And I knew other loan sharks later when I ran bars, and I didn't own them in New York. I only owned one in Peru, but I ran them in New York for 7, 8 people. And that's almost how I thought all loan sharks were. They were like, don't do this. Don't do this. I can't do this for you. So I always thought they were pretty good. Nobody ever said, give me your lunch money, kid, take heroin. I don't, that's not what the mafia did. The mafia filled in the blanks where the banks wouldn't. They took care of problems when somebody was trying to extort you or whatever. So, I mean, I'm probably a heretic when it comes to mafia too, because I thought they were okay. They just supplied the stuff that everybody wanted, and it wasn't legal to get, whether it was fireworks, whiskey on Sunday, or wine, or beer, or bicycles. The fact that all that stuff fell off the back of trucks, I can't. But I had a stand at the Feast of San Gennaro once. Do you know that?
Oh wow, that was a
You know
big
what the
thing. Of
Feast of San Gennaro is?
course.
I had a 16-foot stand there. And
When was that?
1975,
Oh,
1976.
oh, I
And our guy Louis got the stand. He was diabetic, and his job, when the government offered people, um, what's the word for like hiding? I'm just forgetting it for a second. I'm tired. When the government sends you somewhere and you have a new name and new
Oh, witness
address,
protection. Witness protection program.
so Louis' job was the mafia always knew what the witness protection was. And so they would offer the person, would you like us to come after you, find you, and kill you? Or would you like us to put you in real witness protection? And a lot of people would say, I'll take the real witness protection. So Louis would drive them somewhere and turn them over to somebody else, who might turn them over to somebody else, who knows what. And then Louis would drive back to New York. So Louis driving back to New York, and he's a diabetic, and he's about 2 hours late, and he has no fucking needles with him, so he's going crazy. And he starts to weave on the Jersey Turnpike. And he gets pulled over, and the cops bitch at him. He said, I'm diabetic. I mean, I'm really just trying to get home, man. Give me 20 more minutes, man. I'll get my fucking medicine, I'll be fine. They searched the car, 73 automatic weapons in that car. He dropped off the car that he drove this couple in, and they gave him a new car, 73 automatics, full freaking automatics, handguns, machine guns, under the back seat, under the front seat, in the trunk. Louis just, dropped the. Louis took the rap. He got 8 years federal. Before they gave him 3 months to sort out his life. So the mob said, Louis, tell you what we'll do. We'll give you a feast of San Gennaro. We'll give you a stand. You'll fucking make a fortune. You come fucking out, you got fucking $100,000. Don't even fucking think about it. Louis like, cool. I'll do it. I kept my mouth shut, right? I don't get killed. Because if he opened his mouth, he'd get killed. He had just married. He was like 40 years old. He's about 4'8". His wife was 6'2", gorgeous blonde. I mean, and he was my friend. I knew him for 3-4 years. My friend Marco and Louis. And I remember once they gave us a suitcase to hold.
God.
I opened it. There was 30 kilos of fucking coke in there. Like, I'm not even getting paid for this. I'm holding 30 kilos of cocaine, and I'm going to go to jail for 100 years. If I throw it out, I'm going to get killed. So they weren't great. They were just trying to be mafia guys, and they weren't good enough to be mafia guys. I mean, they were like, so the mafia like used them for these stupid jobs. So Louis got the 8 years. He gets to stand, and 16-foot stand. It's huge. That's as big as they come. And Louis says, Peter, I need you to make me some food and come up with it, what we're going to sell. I was working at a place called the Banana Boat on 79th between 1st and 2nd or 2nd and 3rd. Anyway, restaurant. But we had 2 walk-in kitchens. So I made lasagnas, like 10 lasagnas, and manicotti. I made tons of sausage, so we could do sausage and pepper, heroes, and you know what I mean? I mean, when I say tons, I mean 200 pounds, This was all oversized because we're going to make $1 million. So we're down at the feast, we're building a stand, we got the No Neck twins right next to us. And the No Neck twins, some stupid asshole took a car, got drunk, and you can't drive through Little Italy when this feast is going to start in 3 days, right? Some guy hit their stand, and the No Neck twins just beat him to death right there. Just like took his head and whacked it 20 times, and he died. This was a tough neighborhood. The No Neck twins were about 8 feet tall. If they had necks, they'd been 9 feet tall. I mean, this was. So Mike the Hat comes over because he's running our block.
Mike the Hat.
Mike the Hat.
No Neck
Yeah, Mike the Hat says, Louis, what do you got? And Louis says, well, we got lasagna, we got manicotti, we got sausage fucking heroes, we got this, we got. Mike the Hat says, no. Louis said, what do you mean, no? Says, some fucking stonard took the wrong fucking truck last night. He took a fucking truck with fish cakes. You get 18,000 pounds of fish cakes. Deal with it. $6 a pound. Louis looks at me and I start talking. Who the fuck's that little guy? He's not even a guinea. Shut him up now. We had 18,000 pounds of fish cakes to sell. 18,000 pounds. We didn't have a freezer, nothing. And that changed everything. So suddenly our chance of making money for Louis before he went to jail for 8 years became like, wait, we owe $3,000 in rent. We owe $45,000 in fish cakes. We owe $600 a night to the police, $400 a night to the cops, $300 a night to electricity, $500 a night to protection, $500 a night to who knows what, sanitation. I mean, we're into this for like $90,000. You got 10 days. Can we sell $15,000 a day to make 150? No, no, no. Maybe we could sell $2,000 a day, and then we're only 70,000 in the hole, and we're screwed for life. So we were stuck with the fish cakes. I mean, well, Mike the Hat talked. That was it. The Noni twins are there. Mike the Hat's there. No. Vinny Scarpini's over there. No, we had no. This was not option. Then they came in and told us about the beer. Whatever beer you got, get rid of it. We're selling frickin' Pabst. We're giving you a good price, $9 a frickin' 6-pack. In 1975, it was like $3 a 6-pack. They're giving us $9 a 6-pack, and we don't have a freezer. So we rented a freezer. It didn't work. We were trying to sell warm beer for 11 days. It rained 7 days. On about the 5th day, not Louis, but Marco says, Peter, they're going to kill us. And he picked up a freaking fish cake. Mrs. What's her name's fish cakes? The famous ones. They're pretty good. Miss Fisher's, whatever. Anyway, the famous ones. Herbs. And he rolls it up in a ball and he throws it in a fry lid. Or threw it to me and I throw it in a fry lid. And it came out nice. So I made a bowl. I put silver foil in it. And I made 500 fish cakes. And we sold them for like $3 each. Grandma's fish cakes, roundos, Italian roundos. And I know this sounds ridiculous. Geez, what's the funny paper from years ago? Anyway, the story was published in so long ago. But my story about the feast was published. And there were pictures of our stand when Louis and Marco put new signs up. Italian roundos here, the only site in, of Italian. And everybody came by. Man, we sold $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 worth of roundos for the last 5 days. And every day. You took my grandmother's food. My grandmother made this. She had rotten fish cakes too and in the fry lid. And so all the other stand people at the end were like, you finally figured it out. You know what to do. You're going to come on the circuit. Italian round, what do you need a 16-foot for? Take a 5-foot. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. This doesn't fit into anything you're doing about ayahuasca.
No, this is great.
Real life, but
this is
real life. This is who I am.
A lot of the listeners are from New York. They're gonna appreciate it. Don't worry about it.
This is where I come from. So, the rest of it just is like, oh yeah, I'm also a holy man, but not really. I smoke some big wine, smoke a little dope, and this morning did sapo and noodle.
So
and sang for people and was hoping people were good. And I'm planning on making a marvelous dinner tonight that's going to make everybody who has it healthy, and it's going to be nutritious, and we're trying to include. I don't think it's fair to disinclude who I am.
No, of course.
That stuff, like Louis and Marco, running bars.
A lot of people
kid just built me a bar in the backyard in our big oversized garage, and we're probably going to go out there and steal one of his beers. But I'm just giving Devin $30 to say, when you want, just go buy Italo 18 Coors Lights. I wish you wouldn't buy Coors, but he likes Coors. And then buy 6 of your own that you like, so that we have, in the fridge. My kid doesn't feel like I'm ripping him off, and I don't drink beer very much. But we go to the bar just have a couple of sips of cold beer, pet the dogs, listen to, some music, um, just change scenery for a little while, make a phone call, you know,
Yeah, you don't.
and that's all the same. And I'm not sure what you are doing, Tony, but I think us people, I don't think we're just one thing. And I don't think me being the failure that I am
Really?
at
But
some,
why do you keep saying? Why do you keep saying that?
well, because I'm smoking cigarettes while I'm talking about eliminating medicine, eliminating poisons, because my family's broken and it's not the way it should be. I don't mean I'm coming down on myself. I just mean I'm trying to accept it. But at the same time, there's other stuff that's really good. If anybody looks at my blog, if anybody looks at what I write on Facebook, it's usually pretty important stuff.
I
And that
I
might be the
I
best
started
of me.
I started looking through your blog too recently.
Was there anything good there or was it all suck? I think it was pretty good, right?
Oh, jeez. No, so it's it's. I mean, I skimmed through articles from 2000 like 12 or from like when I first. I want to go back and look. What was he talking about when I read the book when the book came out? I did come across an article, and I hope you don't mind me bringing it up, but it was about the book sales. And you were like, I have so many users in my Facebook group, but the book sold this many copies. How is it so proportional that how is it that like 75% of people that bought my book are in my Facebook group? And then like there's a comment that people probably, they I don't know, they rip it off and they publish it as a PDF and whatever.
There were, I think I could find, I'm not looking anymore. I am so thrilled that I get about three, four, $600 a month from my book sales now.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Another question. That's all I've had. What about have you thought about doing like an audible release of it?
I have, and I bought a microphone to do it,
I
but
think
nobody's really been willing to sit here and listen to me for like 13 hours. I mean, the first four people who tried all put knives in their heads. So I
no,
don't think.
but that book has an that's like because now all I do is listen to audible books because I don't know whatever I'm not the brightest bulb, and when I drive around, I just put a podcast or an audible book on, and I think that's
Yeah, no, I was thinking about it, and I think it would lend itself pretty well to an Audible book because it's pretty active.
yeah, it's the visual, and I think it'd be so visual too. Like when
Yeah,
you're, sorry, of course you
and I
know.
don't think my voice is horrible, to tell you the truth. I
No,
don't
it'd be
like
great.
hearing it, but other people tell me it's all right, it works. At the same time, there's part of me that's like, how much of me do people want? They're just gonna
Listen,
click.
you have a great presence about you. You have a very like spirited, um, and I appreciate that. It makes it's easier for me, and the way you're able to talk it. It's magnetizing. So an audible book or whatever you would want to do, I think that you'd have to be tremendous. I just think that book would be great as an
All right,
audible
well,
book.
thanks. I mean, I might, you might be giving me the push to do it. I would love, I'm, I'm really between here and starving. Um, and so anytime I can get an extra stream of 100 to 200 bucks a month, it's not because I'm here and starving, because I, I'm paying for this son's insurance, I'm paying for this guy's house, I'm paying for this one's phone, paying my wife 1,000 a month. And like, okay, that actually takes a bunch.
Oh
And if
yeah.
you smoke cigarettes and drink a bottle of wine every day, that takes another $25. You know, that's $175 a week. My daughter just hit me with that about 2 months ago. Dad, what about $500 a month? I said, shut up. I said, don't even go there.
Yeah.
I don't have any other $500. I'm wearing a shirt that's 4 years freaking old. You know, I'm wearing shorts that are 6 years old, sneakers that are 4 years old. So don't even hit me with my sins. And who is it? Fleetwood Mac? Please don't remind me of my problems. I remember them. I know. I know what I do wrong. I don't need to hear it from you. I'm correcting it. It used to be 2 bottles of wine. It used to be 3 packs of cigarettes. Yeah, we cut down. Now I have a little more to give to charity. If I get a little better next year, we'll do better. Don't remind me because I have not forgotten them. Tony, I'm about pooped.
No, I this is
I'm gonna,
I was gonna say this is a good just real quick, your website, your books, where can people go to?
my website is Peter G9. Oh, no, my website is P Gorman. Shit.
I think I'm gonna say it in the I'll do everything in the intro too before
All right.
we start. I think it's
Everybody,
pgordon.com, and you have Sapo in My Soul,
and
and
ayahuasca in my blood.
you can get signed copies as well as unsigned copies if you prefer on your website.
And I've also got my trips. I don't have the new trip dates up because my webmaster is kind of out of touch with, coronavirus. But we're starting in late January 23rd to February 1st and February 5th to February 15th. I take very few people. I mean, 12 is my max. I usually go with 6 or 7. Um, After which I'm doing 2 months by myself in a beautiful boat for
Nice.
3,000 kilometers. Za, za, za. Collect some plants and, that's really not open to the public. Although people can contribute to that trip if they want. But, and my books are available at Amazon. And I would love it if I could sell 3 extra books.
I'm gonna order
More
some
than that, I
signed.
would love it if somebody that's listening to you or watching this has some questions. I don't mean I could solve the life problem, but if somebody's got a couple of, what about this? What about that? I I really I probably answer 4 or 5 of those a day from strangers. And I think that's part of my job. And I think some people need a little help with this or that. If I can help them, I would love to. And if I can't, maybe I could steer them in the right direction to get some help. And I don't doesn't mean help like in a negative way. It might be help with where should I go? What should I do? Is this diet good for me? My doctor said take this medicine. And I'll call up a doctor and say, is this medicine good for a person with this condition? And I'll call up people that I trust.
I wanted to ask something else, but I feel like like I know you gotta run. And I was gonna say something about ayahuasca and its treatment of like depression and anxiety too and stuff, which is something there's something that's been talked about too and everything. But you know,
Um,
we could recommend somebody if you have to run. We could recommend
no,
somebody.
I would say, yeah, ayahuasca is a big help. In the right hands, with the right team, with the right people. And this is where it becomes ridiculous. I don't trust anybody but me. I know 50 people who are serving it. Some of them are friends. I love it when I go to Iquitos and I'd sit at my table at El Noche restaurant on the boulevard in Iquitos. which is my office now that I no longer have a bar. And people come, are you Peter? Yes. Are you Peter? Yeah, come on, sit down. And we talk. And it happens several times a day. I can't turn those people over to the people I know who are doing ayahuasca. I simply don't trust them. They're not bad people. They're not out to hurt you. I don't believe they know enough. And I'm not telling them to come with me either. It's
I
just,
want to go. I want to go with you.
you would have a good time. As long as you know dirt on your fingernails is not only a good look, but it's a good feel. Yeah, that's fine. But if I would recommend someone else, and since all of my teachers are either dead or serve way too strong medicine, like when I say Pancho's medicine is way too strong for anybody who hasn't had it 50 times, 100 times. I think. And I know at midnight he says good night and walks away. And if you're right in the middle of things, tough freaking luck. I can't recommend somebody that. I dealt with that 20 times, 50 times. I'm not going to recommend somebody else. So I have nobody to recommend. Doesn't mean I don't like these people. Doesn't mean they're not my friends. You know, if they sit at my table, if they want a beer, or, you know, we're going to have a water, we're going to talk 20 minutes. It just, ayahuasca, sapo, cambo, rape, nunu, if they're done right, they're so strong that somebody has to put you in the right, you know, Timothy Leary, time and space. It's got to be the right time, the right place, set and setting. And if it's not, it's going to be scarier and it's going to end up doing you more damage than positivity. Even if it does positivity, the fear it might invoke can be a negative element. And I have a lot of fear about most people serving any of these medicines. And I don't mean to be a prick. I'm not mentioning any names. And I'm not saying come my trip. I'm saying just be cautious, be careful. Look, drink with whoever you want, but take a look. See what they look like naked. See what they feel like. If you're going to really expose your insides, I think you better have a goddamn good idea about who you're exposing those to. Because I don't know if they can put on that heavy fucking Czechoslovakian coat and protect you after it's done. And if they can't, they're not the right person to drink with. And I didn't study with these people. So people I studied with all got old and freaking died. So I can't recommend Julio either. Anyway, for your audience, thank you so much for listening.
Thank you. I really appreciate this.
Tony, again, thank you for listening and putting up with me.
Brand new start of it.